Let's list them all. I mean, every idea, every piece of tech, everything that could be part of the Switch 2. I've dug deep, I've scoured patents, I've looked at all the new tech I can think of, all to bring you the exhaustive, definitive list of potential Switch 2 concepts. From the ordinary to the out of this world, let's get into it. Number 1, microphones, a classic DS feature which surely deserves a comeback. How can you have Nintendogs without microphones? And the Switch barely feels like a Nintendo console without it telling you to breathe weirdly into it. Plus, that bizarre rumour that Retro was working on a singing RPG can now get new legs. Number 2, analog triggers. A lovely innovation of the GameCube now long forgotten. Surely though, if you're looking to make a snazzy deluxe spinning controller for a supered up Switch, analog triggers have to be the way to go. Number 3, Joy-Con speakers. Having speakers in the Joy-Con themselves is another innovation that was retired. Presumably on the Wii they thought it was a good idea, so why not here? Number 4, projection. Last year, Wired ran a feature on game boxes that would beam light into the surroundings to create an interactive game environment in full 360 degrees. Without an uncluttered room with some really white walls, this might seem difficult, unless Nintendo sells some specially branded white cardboard for you to build a box around. Look, the idea seems a few decades away at least from completion, but then so motion controlled arguably. Number 5, scroll wheel. A lot of buzz has been made about this since Masahiro Sakurai mentioned this was something he had previously pushed for. Nintendo has the patent, and it would certainly make Joy-Con different to before if they had a scroll wheel in there. If a computer mouse can have a scroll wheel, why not Nintendo's best and brightest controller? Number 6, improved rumble. The Switch had HD rumble, so what's next? 4K rumble? Although having the Joy-Con vibrate at you like an irate hornet isn't necessarily my idea of a good time, I suspect Nintendo sees a future value in this technology, and so I would expect them to continue to improve this aspect of the console. Number 7, hand tracking. There's a bit of hand tracking through the IR sensors, enough for you to be able to give a thumbs up while testing your brain age, but come on, the chance for you to use your hands to pet a Nintendog or conduct the Hyrule Orchestra feels deliciously Nintendo-ish. Just think how Tears of the Kingdom could be that much more intuitive if you could use your hands to rotate the objects. And hey, having used the name Ultra Hand before, perhaps they'll try it again. Number 8, eye tracking. The eyes are the windows of the soul, but perhaps they can now be the Joy-Con of the mind. Eye tracking tech is something Nintendo invested heavily in to help launch the 3DS, and I think it has a great shot at being useful in games in the future if you can track the screen with just your sight. This feature will be harder to replicate playing docked, but it's not completely unprecedented to have handheld-only functionalities. Look at the touchscreen. Number 9, facial recognition. Not just recognizing faces in fact, but recognizing expressions and emotions. I don't know why, but the idea of being able to stick your tongue out at Mario and having him be shocked just seems so very Nintendo. Number 10, compass. Gunpei Yokoi, the creator of Game Boy and Virtual Boy, described Nintendo's strategy as lateral thinking with withered technology. Basically, take cheap tech and make it work for you. Call me crazy, but I feel like a traditional compass with its opportunity for direction-based gameplay could be something they get mileage from. Number 11, co-opting switches. Here's a big one. What if the new system can somehow sync into the old switches, turning them into glorified Wii U controllers if they're in the vicinity of a current system? This could be a great way to keep sales of the OG Switch going if it means that multi-screen tech can really be used. Number 12, hinged Joy-Con. This was an actual patent that Nintendo once issued. The fact that it saw the light of day suggests they weren't actively pursuing it, but hey, maybe they thought if there's one thing that needs fixing about the Joy-Cons, it isn't drift, it's the fact that they can't fold. Number 13, a home console box. Why not get really retro and release an actual home console? No, I don't think they'll retreat from the hybrid model either, but you never know. Number 14, game cart storage. Make a Switch dock where you can park multiple game carts. In a world which is moving against physical, this would be a great statement of confidence in retail games and will be really handy. Number 15, healthcare. In a world where your watch can do ECGs, why shouldn't your Switch? Nintendo looked at pulse tracking with Ring Fit, but just like the Wii combined well with a balance board, perhaps the new Switch could be designed to sync into a whole healthcare kit. Number 16, screen broadcasting. The Wii U broadcasts to the tablet, but now the Switch could broadcast to the television. Dock-free play wouldn't be great for all types of play, lag being a particular issue for Smash Bros. And the like, but it could be a fun feature. Number 17, integrated Joy-Con. Do Joy-Con need to switch out? I play so heavily handheld that I wouldn't mind integrated Joy-Con, but I suspect it's not their aim. However, It would allow for the return of number 18, the D-pad. Come on, Nintendo, you created the D-pad. Rescue it from Pro Controller obscurity and put it back on the Switch where it belongs. Number 19, stereoscopic 3D. The tech is there. 3D feels like a fad whose time has come and gone, but after all, there is that research there, and so Nintendo has a strong incentive to make use of it. Number 20, joystick. Maybe they'll step back into the 80s. No, I don't see it either. But number 21, heated Joy-Cons. How do you solve a problem like heat distribution? Why, create heated Joy-Con functionality so you can feel the discomfort of magmal caverns in the palm of your hand. Number 22, location tracking. Another useful feature if they want a Pokemon Go title. See where you can go with your Switch, carve a path through your neighbourhood. I do think location tracking is something that they might find incredibly useful in future games if they want to emphasise the mobile nature of the Switch, and so this is one element that I think is certainly worth watching. Number 23, colourful buttons. I mean, this one has to happen, right? Right? Number 24, voice recognition. If it's good enough for Alexa, why not for Mario? I've always wanted to say to my Switch, Switch, please open the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom game. It would save me so much time. Number 25, 5G connectivity. Nintendo's mobile infrastructure isn't amazing, but they've signed a partnership recently with DNA to develop it, and if they could make a Switch that could truly be played anywhere, including online, it might be a bit of a game changer. Trouble is, it would involve negotiations with so many signal carriers, and I can't see Nintendo having the patience for that. Number 26, advanced Amiibo integration. I don't know quite what, but it would be cool if the new system interacted with Amiibo in a surprising way. How? We'll have to wait and see. Number 27, anti-eating tech. Okay, this sounds ridiculous, but wait. Hands up who thought the Switch launch would be dominated by people trying to eat their Switch cartridges to find out how disgusting they taste. Be honest. And if it's good enough for cartridges, why not make the rest of the Switch truly inedible? Number 28, photovoltaic strip. Look, if it's good enough for a calculator, why shouldn't the Switch have a photovoltaic strip? Granted, there's a bit of a difference between the power needed to put in some numbers and the power needed to run a 4K visual extravaganza, but even a tiny energy saving would be pretty cool. Number 29, a separable chip, a bit like a microbit. This here is a BBC microbit and is one example of a standalone mini computer chip used for design projects by children. Imagine a Nintendo version of this. They've already started down the route with Labo and Mario Kart Live Home Circuit of having their games interact with papery stuff in the real world, but this would be a real step beyond. Imagine if you could take out a part of the actual chip of the console and put it into something else and make it go. I could imagine it being something they'd be interested in. Whether or not they'd be concerned about it being unfriendly to users, who knows. Number 30, pedometer. I, for one, have always wanted to know how many steps I take while holding my Switch. Number 31, camera. Not an IR camera, an actual camera. Another blast from the past feature, I rate a camera as having a very decent shot at returning. For one thing, as the Switch becomes ever more tablet-like, it's the obvious feature to append, but it also has potential for the next feature. Number 32, augmented reality. Nintendo has retrofitted the Switch for AR in games such as Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, but having AR as a proposition from day one would require 3D cameras and a host of native software, very probably. Personally, I see this as something they will definitely be interested in doing. Pokemon Go on an actual Nintendo handheld has to be a huge win for them, but we'll see whether this is the time to implement it. Number 33, VR. I've done a whole video on Switch VR, and I still think it's an obvious way to add functionality to the system without it needing to be used all that much. They already went there a little bit with Labo VR, and I think the Apple Vision Pro is going to create a new generation of games, so having the Switch double as an already in your hands VR console that just needs shoving into a headset could be one way of future-proofing the console if the idea does really take off. I think the major block to this is actually the tendency of those devices to cause motion sickness, particularly in the Japanese market. Number 34, image recognition. I'm sure this would be useful for something. Number 35, double screen. Nintendo rode the double screen wave for nearly 2 decades, and with 2 handholds and a home console. You think they're not interested in double screen? This could be a whole video, and luckily for you it is. Friend of the channel, A Talking Sock, has an amazing video on this that is really worth checking out. I'll link it at the end, but spoiler alert, he also mentions number 36, separable screens. Yes, instead of being able to pass a Joy-Con to a friend, what if you could hand the screen as well, or at least half of the screen? And speaking of screens, what about number 37, foldable screen. If phones can fold, why not your Nintendo Switch? Marie Kondo would be so proud. Number 38, 3D print integration. 3D prints aren't enormously common still, but I guess Nintendo wouldn't be averse to selling their own. I don't think this is seriously likely, but imagine the idea of being able to mess around in Animal Crossing, create a winning design that you could then 3D print and have on your bedside table. It seems plausibly Nintendo-ish. While I'm on ideas that are so ridiculous and yet would bring joy, number 39, Joy-Cons that clip into little robots and walk around. I don't know, instead of detaching your Joy-Con and having them at the bottom of your bag, what if you clip them into something that had legs and wheels that can zip around your house like little mini Marios? I'm sorry, that would just be awesome. Number 40, connection ports. Connection ports are a way to add in extra features later on, even if they don't want to add them in on day one. These days, most things are done with Wi-Fi, but who knows what weirdness Nintendo may have for a rainy day. Labo 2, perhaps. Number 41, transparent casing. It was awesome on the Game Boy. Let's be honest, it's still awesome now. Number 42, a zoom button. A brilliant accessibility feature for the partially sighted, as well as a basic necessity for anyone playing Fire Emblem Three Houses on handheld mode. Number 43, a text-to-speech button. Also useful for accessibility. Imagine if you could press a button and have the Switch read anything on screen to you. Most people wouldn't use it, but for those few people who need it, it could be really helpful. Number 44, a colorblind mode. So hopefully most games these days are made with some awareness of colorblind people, such as that textures can be easier to read on screen than colors for some. But what about having an option for a flat-out colorblind mode which uses AI to go back to any game, from NSO to indies, and add textures to flat blocks of color to distinguish them? Probably too hard to program in, but again, a great case for Nintendo to be able to tout their inclusivity if they can make it work. Number 45, walkie-talkie functionality. If the Joy can have microphones and cameras, why not have them double as walkie-talkies? Pointless? Sure. Completely obsolete in an age of cell phones? Definitely. Fun for well upwards of 40 seconds on Christmas morning? You betcha. Number 46, a turbo button. There's absolutely no way Nintendo will ever go for this. They're more likely to put in a self-destruct button. But give me a break, I'm 46 in, and they can't all be winners. Number 47, double shoulder buttons. Why have one set of shoulder buttons when you can have two, presumably requiring the Z triggers to go further down the back of the console? Number 48, multiple SD card slots. For when the internal storage is woeful and the console's first EA game requires that 7 petabyte download, hey, we've got two SD card slots for you. Number 49, cloud integration. NSO has its own cloud service and they've experimented with cloud gaming, but what if Nintendo goes a step further by making the whole system utilize tools and devices that are regularly hanging out in the cloud? I can't see it, but then again I couldn't see the Virtual Boy either, and look how well that... oh, yeah. Number 50, autoplay button. Stuck on a game, can't get by. Just click the play button and the AI on the Switch will play the game for you and get past that tricky bit. It's the ultimate way to make gaming accessible. Does it need a whole button? Perhaps not, but it's one way for Grandad to even the odds for that Christmas Day Mario Kart competition. Okay, that takes us through a rundown. I hope you enjoyed. Please drop a note in the comments for which ones you think are the most likely, and maybe we'll come back and examine likelihoods another day. Take care, have a good day, see you soon.